It's the top of the hour, whatever hour it might be, and it's Wednesday afternoon, which means it is time for Two on One, the internet's highest rated talk show between two ministers with usually another minister intersecting pop culture and theology. I'm the Reverend Arthur Stewart.
And I'm the Reverend Stephanie Kendall. And this, again, is Two on One. Thanks for joining us today. We are, Arthur, I am so excited for today. I'm just,
Yeah.
our guest is one of my favorite people, always a good time. And,
Well,
you know, I really enjoyed Ghost or Power. Well, I have to ask him, like, what does it go by? I don't even know.
Book 2, Ghost.
I know, but I was watching. Did you watch the little clips in between that, like, they just called it Ghost? I want to know the insider language.
Okay, well, no, I didn't. I hate to say
Oh,
this.
that's okay. I got real into this,
No,
deep watch.
it is very good, and it's one of those things where I've never seen it before, and now I want to go back and watch. Anyways, we can get to that with Qadry in a second.
And
So I
we
want
will.
to tell you, I have a theory. Okay.
Oh, tell me your theory.
So, as you know, we're sponsored by Jeff One Row Designs.
I've heard of that.
They're celebrating 15 years of making ordinary time extraordinary time. Actually, I don't think it's making it extraordinary time, but that should be a
I think
little.
he's making it. It's 15 years of making ordinary time extraordinary.
Absolutely. So every week, you and I talk about how they make liturgical textiles, which is now like liturgical face masks or copes or chasubles or banners or paraments or frontals or stoles. And I've shown stoles, and we've recommended every week that our friends and listeners and viewers,
People we know and people we don't.
yes, like literally everyone should buy and wear Jeff Wonrow designed liturgical textiles, but I figured out somebody who wouldn't want to wear it. Okay.
Tell me.
So
Yeah.
follow along on this. Like there are some people who don't robe except during Lent and Advent because like there's this added air of gravitas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those people should buy the worst stoles they can find, which would not be at Jeff One Row Designs. They should buy
No,
the tacky, like clearly made of polyester reversible stoles that no one really likes, because that way their church will be like, put those paraments back. We'll see them in 8 months when it's time for whatever's next, right? If you were to wear a Jeff One Row stole during Lent or Advent, your church would say, wow, that's obviously beautifully hand stitched, well made, quality controlled, and shipped.
made for your size and shape. I mean, because one of the things that I love about Jeff is as a person who is only 5'2", who is a towering 5'2", if you will, stoles are always super long on me. One of our guests, Jamie Plunkett, has come on, and I wore one of his stoles one time, and it went down to like my shins because he's a foot and a half taller than me, and yet stoles are not a one size fits all thing.
But Jeff One Row Designs will customize and make it work. There's no way that you can wear a Jeff One Row stole and people won't say you should wear that again.
I totally agree. And just as a reminder for everyone listening or viewing, if you were in a faith community, Lent is like 3 weeks away. It's February 17th is Ash Wednesday, friends. So if you were to go on to Jeff One Row's website, jeffwunrow.com, and figure out which stole you want, you could order it and have it in time for your Ash Wednesday service, and or if you want to give yourself a little bit of extra time, really come out with a bang for Easter.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Because I mean, I don't know about you, but we're doing online stuff. But as people are getting the vaccine and whatnot, there's a lot of talk of when do we go back in person and all of that. And I've been thinking a lot as someone as an Enneagram 3 who loves what I wear, of what stole I want to wear when I come back to worship in person for the first time. And it will be a Jeff One Row stole.
I've actually custom ordered a pigeon rat stole based on our conversation in Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Not actually, but I'm really thinking about it. My husband would kill me if I did that, which is sometimes a good incentive. Anyways, friends, go to jeffwonrow.com. If you order stoles today, you can get a 15% off discount by using the promo code 2on1, all one word, spelled out, like the word 2, on, the word 1. 15% off your order of stoles. jeffwonrow.com. These stoles still steal the show.
They do.
All right.
And speaking of a show stealing stole, I don't even want to know what I would put on a stole for Power Book 2 Ghost, but That's a question we can ask Qadry.
Yeah, it's time to bring him in. I'm so excited to welcome back one of our favorite guests. All of our guests are almost our favorite guests, but Minister Qadry Harris is joining us today again, and it's good to see you, friend.
What's going on, Arthur? What's going on, Reverend Smith? How y'all feeling?
So good, so amped up from watching 10 hours of Power or Book 2 Ghost in like 24 hours.
You watched all 10 hours?
I watched all but 2 episodes.
Okay.
I started last night at 6 o'clock.
Nice. Binge watching it is always great.
I could not. I was very much in. I was gonna do like the 5 episodes that you and I talked about, just to kind of get a feel for the show and the characters and the world and all of that. And I watched episode 1, immediately texted Arthur and was like, "Here's what Qadry told us to watch. I'm just watching." And I just powered through. I turned it off at like 2 a.m. and then like went to bed, got up for work, did my work thing. And then as soon as work ended, finished the last 2 episodes tonight. So I'm like hot on the heels of the finale.
So this was my penance to Reverend Stephanie, because, and this is one of the things that I realized that eventually when I get married and have children, I'm going to have to explain to my daughter one day how one of my really good friends, who just happens to be a white woman, put me onto Insecure. So I had to repay her by, I was like, you gotta check this out. You gotta check this out.
1,000%, and I'm really grateful. It is I love it like I love Insecure.
It is something I wouldn't have watched just because I don't watch Stars, right?
Yeah.
Or like, and and I'm so mad at myself from the past for missing it. Like it's just, so for those of you who don't know Power Book 2 Ghost, it is the second book in hopefully a very long series about
4, I believe. I think there's a vision for 4.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's this Shakespearean-esque crime and drug drama. And it addresses too, like, actual things in the real world, including race and gender and mass incarceration and the privilege of education, and it's just really well done. And Method Man plays a sleazy lawyer, and Mary J. Blige is in it. And it's
METHOD, yeah.
Like, it took me 3 episodes to finally go, oh my God, that's Method Man.
Like,
it was
he's killing that role.
It's so good. And it makes I was texting Qadry about this earlier. It makes or I think both of you, like, my 90s like hip hop heart flutter.
Yes.
Like,
yes. And right. And like, that's one of the things me as Reverend Stephanie bonded over, was love for hip hop, and particularly the 90s era was definitely the golden age, right? Like, just the artistic expression that was going on with the lyricism and the sampling of the beats. Like, I was just talking with someone earlier about how it was Renaissance music, in a sense. You see a guy like Large Professor sampling a Michael Jackson song, Human Nature, and flipping it to Nas's It Ain't Hard to Tell, right? Which is one of the hardest lyrical hip hop tracks ever. Like, tying both those generations together. It was, the 90s. Seeing a iconic figure from 90s hip hop on TV every week.
It was just, it's so good. So and then, like,
wait, Arthur, would you go back and tell a little bit? You were about to give a little bit of the background, just for our viewers that didn't actually.
Power Book 2 Ghost follows Tariq, the son of, I forget his. I'm so bad with names every time we do this.
James St. Patrick.
James St. Patrick, who was the Democratic Democratic candidate for lieutenant governor, and he was killed by his son Tariq. But Tariq's mother took the fall. Part of it is because Tariq can only inherit the family fortune if he gets a 4-year college degree. So they pull strings with, like, that guy, one of those that guy white guy actors.
They are out there. Simon Stern. There are so many Simon Sterns in the world.
And my God,
that's a thing. This is what
kept me watching the show, was when he's sitting in the admissions office, or like his first interview at the school, and he has to tutor Ezekiel Cross,
Yep.
a basketball player, and the admissions dean, who's a black woman, is talking to him, and she goes, "Do you like basketball?" And Simon Stearns, the white guy, says, "Of course he likes basketball." And the look Tariq shoots him, and the look that the dean and I was like, I'm in. This is good. They had throwaway lines. Ugh.
Simon Stearns.
It is a lyrical show. It is a show, like, in the way in which, my love of 90s hip hop, what I love about it most is the stories that it tells and the way in which it does so. This does that. This is each episode is a lyric unto itself.
Absolutely.
In a way that is so cool. I don't know. Yeah. It is a cool show.
For sure.
It is
a
relevant show.
For sure.
It definitely it nuances things that I think all of us sometimes take for granted.
That's what I love for it.
Yeah, it really just kind of takes it down. And so and I mean, I love Mary J. Blige.
Oh my God. So yeah, you asked me favorite character.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit, Qadry, about your favorite character and why.
Monet Tejada is so she's not even, I think the word that's getting thrown around to describe her, what I've seen is she's a trap queen. And I don't even think that does her justice, because queen seems to insinuate that woman can't be the king.
Well, and there was the queen pin, king pin racketeering thing that they dropped the queen pin stuff.
Yeah, I'm saying this is the drug game, right? So it's very gendered. It's very masculine, patriarchal dominated. So there is a king, right? So we got to deal with the nuance and deal with, that's the underlying assumption. There is a king.
But it's King Monet.
And Monet is the king of this. Like, don't get it twisted.
1000%.
Monet is the king.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think, people get at me for this, but I think Mary J's acting is a little bit, But I love the character.
I'd fight you on it, but that's okay.
See, yeah, that's what I'm saying. See, I knew that. Yeah.
She was tired in episode.
That's my hot take. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think. I will say that I think some of it is that some of it feels a little acted. And for me, she doesn't. She feels very natural, and so I don't think her acting for me was like. It was just like. I was like, oh, she's playing real life humans and real life people. And
listen, I want to be completely honest.
Please.
I have an internal bias against Mary J. Blige in the depths of my soul.
Okay.
Because I was born in Mount Vernon, and she is from Yonkers.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And me and my sister, we one of the things we bond over is we say the only thing the good to come out of Yonkers is DMX and the Locks. But yeah, no, that's just our rivalry, Mount Vernon and Yonkers. It's all love. It's friendly rivalry.
Fair. I'm a
we gotta name our biases. We gotta name our biases. It's a holy practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we talk about friendly rivalries, this is a good transitional thing, I think. So book 1 of Power is about Tariq's family, the St. Jameses, and their empire, in which they have built this drug empire. I hate to use the word twice. The second season has Tariq kind of pulled out and put into Queens, where there is the Tejada drug crime family that has their own realm, and he's not aware of them, and they're not aware of him, which I know it's a big city. That just kind of fascinated me. So here's where I'm going to go crazy, right? New Testament. We get
heard of it. Tell me more.
The vaguely connected churches, right?
Okay.
Like I'm jonesing on Paul forever, and like people talk about other congregations, 2 other congregations, they're aware of each other. There's a standards and practices that develops. Is it it's probably a narrative thing, and I get that, but what does it mean when congregations operate in a bubble and do their own thing, and they might be running operations exactly the same? It'd make more sense to ally or to merge. or to get the hell out of each other's way. What can we learn about congregational polity from the drug empires represented in Power Book 2 Ghost?
Well, I think and this is where we got to deal with a certain level of nuance, right? And this gets to my favorite quote was "You don't know me, you never did," and that was such a I don't want to give a spoiler, but
no,
we're a spoiler.
Okay, yeah. So right before Tariq murders his professor of what's the course called? Canonical studies, right? And it's, you're just a good kid. You're just a good kid. Unfortunately, when people grow up around a certain level of violence and crime, and that's not everyone's experience, we can typically tend to make caricatures of these people, right? It was like Jabari's fascination with Tariq as if he was a specimen to be studied.
He was a tourist.
Right? It was very subjugating and objectifying at the same time. It reminded me of completely dehumanizing. It's like we got to go ahead.
Mission trip.
What's that?
It was a white suburban mission trip.
Right.
Jabari was showing up for a week, putting a roof on a house.
He was a missionary.
Yeah. From the good cultured elite.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And we can't try to fit people into certain boxes and certain narratives because it makes us comfortable, because it makes us feel good, because it's profitable.
Well, I think, for me, it's one of those things where it's like not every minister is meant for that congregation. Like not every minister can be in a congregation. Not every congregant is meant to be, we talk about this at the park a lot. Like we're a really specific kind of justice. I mean, like we are a justice seeking congregation that if that is not your understanding of the gospel, you're going to be really uncomfortable in our space.
Yeah.
It is not our intention to make you uncomfortable.
Right.
People operate with this vision, and I think that that's what the Tejadas do. I think that that's what that's what you saw at Truth. You see lots of different. It's making sure that we take culture and context into
very seriously.
Very seriously, and who we call into spaces of leadership.
Absolutely, and if we do choose to engage certain spaces and people that have different lived experiences than ourselves, right? It's especially when white people or white adjacent people, and Jabari in so many ways was a complex character because his white adjacency was off the charts.
Sure. He made me really uncomfortable.
Very much so. Because those people exist too.
Oh, of course they do, and that's part of why he makes us uncomfortable, right? Is that we know them. So, but like for me, when he was like, he was stealing the narrative of Tariq to profit, for his own gain and profit, and what he wanted from Tariq was very much that dangerous side of him, and yet, in order to play to his better angels, let's say, it was, you're a good kid, you're not like this, it's not, and it's like he knows that right, like he's profiting,
and that's the point, and it's like, fam, you don't know me,
right?
You don't know me, like for real.
Yeah.
And I think this is important for ministerial context and church building context and intra-communal connections, right? It's if we are going to enter into certain spaces, sometimes our schema of what good and evil is, you may legitimately need to throw that out the window in order to authentically connect to me.
Absolutely.
Right? Because it's like, what it really comes down to is, particularly for Black people in urban ghettos that grow up around so much violence, we came here with the assumption that we were meant to be property. Every expression of Black life is a response to that in some way, shape, or form.
Sure.
So your white suburban narrative and context of what good and evil is, that don't mean nothing here.
What was? Oh, Scar. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. What astounded me through it, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to say. Here's the thing, Qadry. Like I've blocked off the rest of my evening. We're pre-recording this. Those of you who are listening to this, but like after the Black Panther conversation, like I just had to sit for about an hour and a half and like on the beach and just watch the ocean. I don't even live near a beach, but like, and I'm doing that tonight. Um, I what just astounded me with Jabari was he wasn't saying what is good and evil, or how are you good, or what is good to you, or why be good. It was you are good. It was signatory, not participatory, right?
And see, the problem for me is I don't think Tariq is a bad kid.
I don't either. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, cause what it really comes down to is like when you grow up around so much violence, you're one step away from, because every time he's murdered someone, it was to protect himself and to protect his family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very not. It is. I mean, I think we see the juxtaposition against him and Cain, let's say, who
Yes.
Cain chooses violence.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Cain, especially like after Drew was shot, right?
Yeah.
Cain was bubbling. He needed, because of who he is and how he has been conditioned, needed to expand itself someplace. It needed to go someplace.
And the truth of the matter, listen,
Yeah.
the same way Jabari's exist in the world,
So do Cain's.
Yeah.
Sure, of course. I mean, I think that's why this show is so good. Is that it is these characters are complex. They don't live in just tropes. They don't. One of my favorite characters is Brushandria. She's in the class in the
Yes.
and I forget how Lauren names her, but there's nuances.
All types of colorism tensions there, classes, socioeconomic tensions there.
And I really appreciated, I love that for the most part, this show is kind of set against the backdrop of academia, right? Yeah. In a way that is such a white space. Mm-hmm. They name it, we all know it, we've all been through it. And yet the nuance that exists, why Lauren pulls Tariq into that and says we need another black man, because we just need to continue the conversation, the deepening of the conversation, essentially with other words. But Brushandra, I think that's her name, she very much continues to push an agenda of like her black strength and excellence in a way that is unapologetic, which is funny because you think of, or at least I don't know if we're meant to think of Tariq as an unapologetic man in this world doing his own thing, and yet he's an apologist for a lot of it, and she's not.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the times I ask myself the question, what would Tariq be had he not had to become a killer? Because it's like, all right, so what I will say about the character development and stuff like that, when I say things like there are real Cains in the world, of course it's art, of course it's dramatized, of course it's towards creating an entertaining story to keep you going back to the app, right? But Cains are real in the world. And Tariq he became a killer because he retaliated on the crooked cop that killed his sister.
Yep.
That's beyond good and evil. It's he killed Jabari because if he didn't, Cain was going to kill him and he wouldn't have been able to protect his mother. Mm-hmm. That's beyond good and evil.
It's the core of being. It's no longer ethics to be debated or morals to be considered. It just is.
Yeah. And that's a lot of times what our more academically inclined colleagues fail to comprehend.
Well, I think that's because good and evil has been systemically understood through a white lens. And so it
is supremacist in its construction,
and thought to be ontological axioms at the very core of existence that are pillars of everything.
Well, I'll tell you what, if I could go back in time and kill anybody, it'd be Plato. I'd chain him up in a cave to never see light. There'd be a fire. There'd be shadows. He'd be fine.
So Plato is your Jabari and you're Tyreek.
No, there's a long list of historical figures I would kill, but you know what I mean. Okay.
Oh, so you just going back and offing everybody. See, you're Kane.
Yeah, pretty much.
Arthur's Kane.
Arthur's just choosing violence.
Right, you're like, Arthur chooses violence. You see, like
this is not the time traveling murder adventures of Arthur Stewart. I'm sorry for the digression. With Kane, can we talk about Monet's kids? Right?
Yes.
Okay, and please remind me of the daughter's name because again,
Diana.
Thank you. I loved Drew. I love Drew's storyline.
I love his character. I love his character.
It grew on me like a tumor. It was.
I love it.
When his
complex, so rich, so nuanced.
When his boyfriend said, "I want a shot at the NBA," I just my heart broke because I mean, God, I mean, I know that feeling. I know that exact feeling. The whole like nobody cares except for you, right? But somebody might. Oh, they did.
Right. Right. Because like my mindset and I think in not the most positive way. One of the earliest ways that I had to or I started my journey of I think what I perceive to be authentically loving LGBTQ communities was it was insinuated to me in high school that one of my teammates might be gay. And this was my junior year. We were getting hot at the right time. We made the playoffs and ended up winning the championship. And this was like in the middle of a playoff run. And I'm a very like logical, analytical thinker. So I'm like, well, he can run the 50 dive, and that's our best offensive play. Like, what the?
Well, doesn't matter.
Like, we got. There's something bigger in front of us that we trying to do. Like, I'm trying to come back here in 20 years and see the Falcons up there, and I was like, yeah.
And
if that's not the gospel, right? Like, you've got bigger things to do.
Well, and it's the common good. And the show is addressing the fact that every single character should be written off. Or sorry, within the structures that are in play right now, every single character can be written off. Yeah. And that's what it is with Drew, because Drew is heir apparent, and he's obviously not Kane, and he's not Diana, who's trying so hard to please Monet, right? But that's the write-off for Drew, and he has it used against him in a way that just about no other character has.
Yeah.
I also found fascinating.
Yeah.
But why do people do that in communities? Right? I'm sorry. I'm trying to help us keep our theology bend. Even
sure. So what I would say is in Black church.
Yeah.
So I think in Black church, and we can talk about how it was important for me to do my internship in seminary at Park Avenue because like I learned how to like put these things that I was experiencing into words. In Black church, our hostility towards LGBTQ peoples is deeply rooted in white evangelical theology and the stronghold that it still has on our pulpits.
So much.
The biblicism, which comes with the anti-intellectualism, which comes with the violence towards LGBTQ peoples. So even it seems like within the Tejada family, there's kind of like a tolerant, don't ask, don't tell policy with Drew. And it's like, that's not love, bro. Like,
Well, and it's an unwritten thing, right? So Monet knows, they all know, but he's worried that Zeke's gonna like look at him differently, and there's this whole thing. Yeah, and the moment that broke me for Drew is when May says, "I wanted better for you.
Yeah,
you deserved better." Like she kind of, like they had put all their eggs in the Kane basket. Like that was who was gonna take over. So Drew, who I think probably is a bit more intellectual, is probably a little bit more driven, is a bit more, I don't know.
He's an artist.
Yeah, he's an artist. There is the human complexity of Drew is and the vulnerability of Drew is leading. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he both has to swallow the vision and the hope he had for himself in order to put family first, which is the motto of the Tejadas. Right. And that is so heartbreaking, because even Monet's not going to back down. She knows what she has. She is a singular vision person. King Monet very much knows how to be king and how to stay king.
Right.
And that is her goal. Right. And putting family first keeps her at king.
Right.
And unfortunately, that then actually kills the hope of who Drew should have been.
So then Drew has to become her enforcer.
Yeah. Because Kane's been written off.
Kane's out of control. Kane can't be reasoned with.
No, and
the only one that seems to be able to get him in check is Tyreek.
I was hoping. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Arthur, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, but only through the adversarial comparison. The only comparing Tariq to Kane is Kane.
Yes,
that's true. Because I was going to say Diana is also trying. Like she talked to him. Yep. She tried, and she's trying. I mean, she gives him the money and is like, Monet said no, stay away. And that's the invitation to both stay away and to align yourself with the family, because when you pull, if you go along with what the family wants, are you still adjacently considered family? And that's what he's hoping, or I think that's what Diana's hoping at minimum.
Yes. Right.
And Kane, poor Kane, that is a call for mental health. That is so much, because Kane but I'm still your son too, Mom, is just
like
isn't even blood. Yeah.
And see, Kane is dangerous because he's cold-blooded, so he'll do anything. Mm-hmm. And he's also a loose cannon.
Yep.
That's very dangerous.
Like he cut up that guy and was like smiling.
Sociopath.
I was like, this is.
And I'm saying Tariq has convinced Kane not to kill him twice.
Mm-hmm.
That's brilliant. Like, listen, Kane killed a cop. Like,
Kane killed the cop, and in the same show, we see a white man punch a cop and then get arrested and then released right there because of his last name. Like we are seeing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the two trust fund kids? Kid Mark and his idiot brother, because that was maybe the just most brilliant, beautiful casting I've ever seen. Like I've met those two.
Listen, I think it's great casting. I think it was great because it gave us, at the same time, we getting these hardcore, gritty depictions of drug dealing. Because, like, honestly, if the drug dealing from Ghost and Tommy's perspective in the book one was completely unfamiliar to me, because they were dealing with cartel level shipments from like Serbia and stuff like that.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And it's like in this depiction, they're giving a more gritty, local kingpin perspective of the people that are actually on the ground, moving the drugs on a day-to-day basis in such an artistic way with the Tejada family, right?
I just love
so this is more relatable to like the things that I saw growing up.
Gotcha.
The white characters were caricaturized in a way
yes.
usually reserved for people of color in predominantly
Right, and that's what I'm saying. We're getting the dichotomy of these scenes. Like, we're getting that with the Tejadas and these country club kids. It's hilarious.
Well, Braden and Riley, I was just cracking up every time they said their names because, like, every Braden I know is like, why did my parents name me this?
I'm weak. Oh, that's hilarious.
And I'm
that's
sorry.
Hilarious.
But what I did appreciate about Braden, I mean, yes, they're I mean, especially the older brother, he's an idiot. But there is an amount of what Braden does is non-appropriative, and I appreciated that.
Yes.
He was a friend to, like, he's completely immersed in Black culture and community,
right?
But knows his place within
and knows his limits, right? He knows, right.
I don't think we see that modeled well often.
It's modeled pretty well here, I think.
Yeah, I think that he does that. I think it's written well. I mean, it's written as from the perspective clearly of someone who has had white friends who are non-appropriative, or who know how to apologize when they are.
Sure. Right. Exactly. Right. Which is a very important model and a very important archetype.
Because we can't escape. I mean, there are all white spaces and all Black spaces, but I mean,
that'd be an interesting case study for like a Bible study or a workshop for white allyship or white accomplished. What now? How we putting that nowadays?
Like accomplice.
White accomplices.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting
it's
deep dive.
So let me ask, because there was one question that really stood out to me with the show, and in regard to ministry and expectation. What is it? Expectations are the root of resentment. In the 10th episode, Braden and Reek reconcile. And the way they reconcile is like little kids who had a fight. And that's just what broke my heart, because they literally were like, isn't Riley dumb? Yeah, she's super dumb. She missed out on this. And you get the handshake thing, and they walk in the same direction. And it's like, oh yeah, they're 18.
Yeah. That was so college. I was like, yeah, man.
And it just,
yeah.
So what?
College.
What do we do? What do we do in the church? What do we do in our communities when we want people to be where they're at, but we also expect them to be so far beyond it simultaneously? Like, we now and not yet human development, right?
Yeah. I think the basic answer is meet them where they are.
Yeah.
And like really, like, not in a way that's offsetting and, paternalistic and what Jabari was doing to Tyreek. we don't want to do that.
There's transparency in journeying with people where they are as well. That I think Monet at least said, especially when her and Tariq are talking and they're trying to figure out if they're good, and he's like, she's like, if I wanted you dead, you'd be dead. Like, that's just, and it's just like,
King.
What?
She's the king.
He's the king, but very much so in a way that there's transparency there. It's like, I'm talking to you, so let's move forward.
Right. Let's put all the cards on the table, man. Like,
it's relational. It's small church relational. So much of what this is. Sorry, Arthur. Do you?
No, you keep going. I'm desperate. Okay. Sorry.
We're all very excited tonight. But it's very much so much of what this is for me. So I did not watch Power in the first season or the first run, the 6 seasons of that. I've only watched this, but I did a little bit of research, and the Kingpin kind of understanding of that is, what are you doing to the church, the big C church? This feels very small C church. This feels relational. It's the reason that when Cain kidnaps the white boys and Braden can go in and actually sell and move this stuff, because he's been immersed in what it means to be relational within that community. So he knows how to address and like name it, whereas his other brother, who has not been relational with that community, is at a complete loss.
And that's why I think when you talk about doing ministry and relating to people and getting beyond this concept of good and evil, like the stigmas that we have on drug users and even drug dealers, we got to chill with that, because like what you saw in that episode is how easy it really is to sell drugs in those communities. Like, it's really easy.
And Braden,
it is very easy to get caught up into those things, and then you never know, anything can happen, and next thing you're committing a murder to protect yourself and to protect your family.
Sure.
And now you're too far in, right?
Yeah.
Like if you really want to minister to those people,
you've got to. One of the biggest things that I ever took away, I went to a seminar on God and guns one time over at Riverside years ago, that Amy Butler put on, and Rachel Johnson. And one of the things that I went to, one of the plenaries that I took away from them that continues to stick with me is that, you know, if you take guns out of a community, what are you going to replace it with? Because gun is security, it is family, it is safety, it is income. It is not strictly a defense mechanism as we whitewash it to be so often. And that's, I think, the same way of what we're learning in this world of the complexity of what it means to survive in spaces that have been built to you know, to be supportive structures of really patriarchal white supremacist systems. And so, you know, it's in that space where it's like, what do we, if we're taking away the drugs, we're like, oh, we don't want to, you know, deal with drug deals or whatever.
What are you doing to replace that income?
Exactly.
Because a lot of people eat off of that.
And community. Exactly. Because if you take a gun away and you take drugs away, it's not just that one person. It is the kids that they have in their family, or as we see the extended family and what that means, which is very much so Zeke going into Monet's house is very much early church family system. Yeah. You have, you know, siblings and what does that look?
And those block parties, listen, those block parties that the Monets throw,
yeah,
they're great times.
Of course,
they're wonderful times. It rivals the Last Supper, I'm telling you.
Yeah, 200 people in the same house, though, loving and nurturing and caring for each other, revolves around how, you know, is the kingpin of Monet saying, like, it's only possible. This family is only alive and thriving and well because of what she does. And if we take it away and replace it with nothing, then we are perpetuating systems of inequality and that are set up by white supremacy to only.
And I think it's interesting that if you look at womanist ethics and theology as a cure for the disease of white supremacy, right? We see the stark contrast between Ghost as a kingpin and Monet, right? Because Ghost in the first 6 seasons, the further and further he advances into his drug career, into his political career, into his career as a club owner, his family falls apart.
Sure.
And it seems like Monet is doing everything to hold hers down.
Well, it's family first.
Right.
You hear it all the time.
Well, Ghost was Ghost first, right? Yeah. But then Black woman takes over and it's family first.
And that's the difference between church first and community-based church first.
So wait. I'm throwing this in because this is here's my grenade tonight. Number 1, Braden as a corner boy is how missions should be done. Because it's from a relationship. And yes, that means the beautifully rolled spliff is Jesus Christ in this analogy. Number 2.
Wait, hold on. You did not tell me this podcast was 420 friendly because you definitely just endorsed cannabis.
The now that white people have decided it's fine, like that's the thing that bothers me.
Now it's fine.
Like, let's commute all nonviolent drug offenses, and then we can legalize marijuana. I think it's great.
Right.
Anyways,
like it's like putting the cart before the horse. Like get all the people out of jail, and then.
So Ghost being about Ghost, and Monet being about family. It's not just church first and community-based church first. It is the image of God and how it works. Because if we're going to say the kingdom of God is among us, we're inhabiting that Monet space. If we're saying the image of God is God looks like me, if God is male, male is God, the white Jesus in all of these churches, we're developing. I have to sit with this stuff.
Right, but see, let's nuance it a little bit because it's even more complicated than that. Because I don't think well, I don't know, maybe this is a hot take, but self-respecting black churches do not have images of white Jesus up in their churches anymore. Like, we're
White
past that.
didn't have white Jesus.
The problem is white Jesus is still being preached, right? White Jesus is being preached when your pastors are telling you things like, well, God can be any color, and you know, don't worry about politics too much. We'll have our reward in heaven.
Yeah, that's...
And telling you you need to hate gay people and women shouldn't be ordained because the Bible says so. That's white Jesus. Rebuke it.
Amen.
It's satanic.
Amen.
Nothing good comes from it. That's
rebuke
the
white
Antichrist. That's we looking for Satan out in the sky in hell somewhere, and it's right there.
So I just got to tell our viewers and our listeners, Qadry came on to talk about the Black Panther, and if you haven't seen or heard that episode, you should go back and listen to it, because like we went for 2.5 hours. It was like I sincerely was like dehydrated and exhausted after it, and it was one of the best days of my life.
You gotta stretch it.
I added him on Facebook, and for the last like 6 months, I've been just like it's incredible, because Qadry is like this in real life and in digital life. So like I get it. And maybe hopefully if you haven't been exposed to a lot of this, you're like, oh, that's like it's good. It's good. Like feel the exhaustion a little bit is all I'm telling our viewers who may be like, this is great. That is
I don't find it exhausting. I find it life-giving.
Praise God.
I will name that, you know, why the first time I was like, let's bring Qadry on is because for 4 years at this point, because Qadry and I, we've been friends for almost 4 years.
That happened so quickly. That's wild. It happened so quickly.
But this is what Qadry and I do. We get into these long theological conversations, and so does our entire young adult group at the park. That's how we all kind of came together. Spaces of being like, well, what do you think? How do you think? You know, and all of this. And so always insightful and wonderful. And if you ever are actually around Qadry and I, you know, stretch first, because we get into it.
We get into all of it, and I love it. It is life-giving. It's a holy practice. It is an honor, like, to be able to like work out your faith with other people going on a similar journey.
Absolutely.
Amen. And
like that's church, right? That's community, right?
Why 2-on-1 I think is important in what we do. Smash that like and subscribe button, y'all. That, you know, it's because we need to be engaged in real intentional ways that say, this is where I am. It's meeting each other where we are, not just in leadership. It is not this kind of overlording leadership, you know, kind of structure of power where it's like, no, we're all on that same level trying to just like figure it out. And I think one of the best things that I have learned in mine and Qadry's relationship, and just in serving church at writ large, you know, the park identifies as a womanist queer church.
Absolutely, praise God.
Amen. And being a white woman who serves that space, one of the things that I have learned to do and appreciate most is to apologize, engage faithfully, engage with intention and passion and all of the things. And if I say something that, you know, I misstep or whatever, I'm going to learn and grow. And that's in the same way that like Qadry and I are learning and growing together. And we've been doing it. Arthur and I've learned so much from Arthur as well. And so like, you know, the power of an apology, I think is an important part that is not named enough in church. It is so much of what happens, I think, in this show. It is an apologetics, it is an anti-apologetic and yet an apologetic space for all of for the world in a lot of ways. Like that there's you know, that there is it is real, it is nuanced, it is relational, it is church. And so talk about it.
But if you're going to be in church, in which the ideal is real community, right? You got to be able to humble yourself in order to do that.
Be transparent, authentic.
And be open to criticism and feedback, and like in a real way, and internalize it faithfully, and be willing to change your actions. Like, that's grace.
Ooh, that's great.
And to trust that the other people offering feedback and opinions are also being led and fed by the Spirit.
Absolutely. Trust your fellow believers. Yeah.
Trust your fellow believers. We are coming up on our time, and I hate that. I hate it so much. I like you, and I hate that we have a Spiff, you always ask the final question because you are so much better at it. You are gifted and skilled at it. And
one of the few things I have gifts on. Qadry, again, thank you for coming on. It is
absolutely. Glad to be here. Glad to be here, folks. I love the show. I love y'all show. Oh, man, I love it.
Oh, thank you. And if you haven't checked out Qadry, plug your new podcast.
Okay, so my podcast is Speak Easy, Black Renaissance Podcast. We are available on all major platforms. Most of our listenership comes through Apple, but we on Spotify, Google, Rocket Podcast, and a bunch of other ones, and Anchor as well. We deal with Black religion and Black politics, and we typically use 90s hip hop as our entryway into these discussions.
As you should. As 90s hip hop should be the entry into all things.
So many discussions, right? Yeah, it's great. It's great. So yeah, you can find me on social media. What's my Twitter handle? I think I'm at Qadry Harris. That's QADRY Harris HARRIS.
Are you not the modern Duke Ellington anymore?
I am the modern _Duke _Ellington on Instagram.
Got it. I was like, I know
on Instagram. Yeah, and then Facebook, I'm just Qadry Harris. So
got it. So now we know how to get a hold of you. So
there's no such thing as being just Qadry Harris. Like,
praise.
Amen.
No, I'm trying to be humble. You know.
You are humble, so just be you. There you go.
I'm working on it.
So, as is our tradition and our through line of 2-on-1. Qadry, what biblical story, narrative, character, or theme are you most reminded of in Power Book 2 Ghost?
I think the way the story is developing, because I got to be honest, at first I thought it was a little bit slow. Mm-hmm. But maybe that was because I was used to the later seasons of Power that got into action way too quickly. But that's a whole nother discussion. I think the way the story is developing is, I think Tariq's character is Solomon. With Ghost lingering as a ghost type figure in the background as the King David, right? Mm-hmm. Where David had a narrative of conquest where he almost had to be such a violent, lethal killer. Even if he necessarily wasn't innately built that way. He had to become that hitman, which Ghost absolutely was, in order to survive, right? It seems like Solomon is David's redemption in many ways, where he's so much more when Solomon's on the straight and narrow, he's a diplomat to a certain degree, right? He can, be a military force when he needs to be, which I hope they flesh out in Tariq's character, right? Because he hasn't killed for business interest yet.
True. Yeah.
I think if and when he does that, there's a switch there. Every time he's killed so far, it's been to protect himself, to protect his family. Right?
Yeah.
Which includes avenging his sister. Get beyond good and evil, folks. So it's Solomon, but at the same time being able to relive David's story and make different decisions. And hopefully it turns out better for him.
I like that.
The cat approves.
Houdini in the room, and I'm sorry.
It was such a good meow to punctuate what he said.
Right, it's perfect time.
Arthur, you want to go?
Yeah, because I'm in agreement, and so the David story I've tried to preach and I've tried to teach and never have gotten to part 3 as the God follower, because the David story is a mafia story. It's crime families fighting for influence and power.
Absolutely.
100%. And I'm going to say Tariq is David because I haven't seen Power Book 1. And because, Jabari is Chronicles, right? So he's telling the highlights of Tariq's life. And maybe
doesn't work.
Braden is the Psalms, right? So Braden is trying to engage the story and crediting him with stuff, but also it's forthright. And
and Tariq is still lying to him.
Yeah, and I don't know who the Samuel Kings would be, but it might be
right.
because Cain's saying, "Does no one else see that this guy is dangerous?" and that's kind of what the Samuel King cycle does. So I'm gonna.
That's good.
I'm
It's
gonna
good
jump
execution.
on the Solomon thing though, and look at that too. I might reevaluate that. That's really good.
It's good, yeah.
Yeah, no, because if you go back and watch the first book, Ghost is a killer. Like, even if he's remorseful,
sure,
right? He's still like a killer's killer. Like, he could rival Cain if need be, even if he doesn't want to.
Yeah,
he could. Tariq is not on that level, and I hope he never gets there.
I hope he doesn't get there either. I really appreciate the naming of Cain, and I think it plays well into
Brother Slayer.
Yeah,
Lord
he's the brother
God.
Slayer. And I was telling you all this earlier that I have my fan theory of season 2 of this is that so the last line of the entire season is Monet saying, "Get in the car, the family's coming."
Yes, such an iconic line.
Which is an invitation for Tariq to be a part of this family, because he's just said goodbye to his other, and there's lots of different things. And so there's an ableness to that, like the Cain Abel juxtaposition of that. I hope we don't see Brother Killer come out in that space, that there's the Cain Tariq.
So can I make a prediction?
Yes, but hold on, can I finish my...
Oh, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, but where my actual final answer for today's episode is that he's Ehud, in that he has his sword. He's called to kill the king, but hides his sword. Ehud being a left-handed person that hides that hides his power, right? Hides his sword, and only utilizes it to as he gets in proximity to power and as necessary.
And that's real good.
He uses it in a left-handed way, not a right-handed way.
Oh, right. That's powerful. Oh yeah. That's better than
what's your prediction?
You got to preach that. That's powerful.
I'm preaching Sunday, but that's not what's coming this Sunday.
Okay, that's fair. But listen, put it in the tuck so you have it when it's ready. Okay. So I think this is where I think Tariq Solomon ghosts David in the background. Ghosts end up having to send Cain, his version of Cain, which was Kanan, which was 50 Cent's character. Right. Ghosts end up having to send him to jail and then try to kill him, but he comes back, which is a really weird supernatural dynamic in the show, which was off. But it eventually ended up being Tasha and Tariq who took Kanan out. So that's where the line from Tariq comes from. I killed my best friend to protect my family. He and his mother killed Kanan, who was Ghost's version of Cain for Tariq. So I'm interested to see how this turns out between Tariq and Cain. I think he's going to... have... Maybe they end up being friends for real.
I think they end up being, maybe they are the brothers that survive, right? Maybe they are maybe it rewrites the Cain and Abel script.
Oh, that would be powerful.
Don't.
Oh yeah.
Don't tell me they're gonna kill Drew.
I think that they're gonna kill everyone. I think that we're gonna end up. I think that we're in a real Shakespearean tragedy here, and I think there are going to be a
lot of people they killed everyone.
I will just name. I don't think Tariq survives this life in this way, but in a way that I found really powerful. That ghosts don't die.
Yeah.
That he is when he says, "I may live up to the name," that he becomes his own version of a ghost, and since ghosts can't ever die, I think that what he does in this world will loom.
So I'm corny and cliche, and I'm hoping that they rewrite his story where he gets completely out of the drug game and can go chill on an island somewhere.
I hope so too.
But I don't think it's gonna happen either.
Well, what's chapter 9 in Jabari's book? Speaking of, actually, I'm just going to transition into it. We are sponsored by Jeff Wonroe Designs. I'm putting up our little screen right here to make sure we get it up. I don't want to forget to tell people to check out those stoles again. And thank you, Jeff Wonroe, for being our lead sponsor.
Absolutely.
Qadry, thank you. Like, this is like a gift. And
oh, stop! I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be here, friends. It was wonderful.
Good to see you.
Likewise.
We've already talked to you about a little idea that we have, and also we want to talk to you about a great Christmas present for us. But we'll do that after we finish recording.
Yeah.
Spiff, who's coming up in the next few weeks?
Yeah, next week we're taking a completely different turn. We're going and we're entering into Grace Sloan Memorial and or one of the many names of Grey's Anatomy's space. So we are headed with Kristen Peters to Grey's Anatomy next week, which we are very excited about. And then after that, we are doing.
There's a
football you want to do it?
And it's very important on the 7th of February.
Friends, there's football happening around some sort of concert. And so we're going to talk about.
Well, I've heard that there's an old man leading a team and a young man leading a team. And those teams are going to do like the dance from the Bad music video where they grab arms and they.
Anyways, Jamie Plunkett is coming back to talk the Super Bowl. And so, stay tuned, friend, because Arthur and I are going to talk about the concert in the middle of it.
I hope there's onside kicks.
I hope they all kiss. I don't. The thing that if you've never watched football with me before, and it will inevitably come up anytime if you watch football with me in real life, anytime they tackle each other, I yell kiss. Because I hope that they all are just secretly like little smooches when they tackle each other. That's my hope for football.
The 17th, the Reverend Dr. Katie Hayes is going to join us to talk about Stephen King. And we've got, we're working on a really good slate of people. We're excited for season 2. We've started off season 2 with a bang. Qadry, thank you for rounding out our January of Champions. It's an honor and a privilege and a pleasure every time. This has been 2 on 1. Please make sure to subscribe, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, make your friends, enemies, neighbors, and loved ones listen to this or watch it with you. And until the next time, I'm Arthur Stewart.
I'm Stephanie Kendall. And this is Qadry Harris. I don't know how to introduce you, but and this has been 2 on 1. Thanks, friends. We'll see you next week.
Goodbye.